Hi everyone and welcome to Dennis Deep Cuts. This is the 8th installment of this fine YouTube series. Today we're going to talk about some of my favorite releases of 2022. This is going to be a two-part thing. Today I'm talking about old music that someone repackaged so suckers like me would buy it. We are talking about reissues, re-releases, box sets, and so on and so forth. Let's see what happens. Alright, so today we're talking about my top 10 favorite records of 2022, but we're talking about my top 10 records with old music. Next installment we're going to talk about new music. I'm talking about reissues and re-releases and box sets and stuff like that. And there's a couple things I want to lay down before we get into this. First of all, I'm not talking about like, another version of the color of the vinyl of AC/DC's Back in Black 1000 pressing. I'm talking about stuff that maybe hasn't been released on vinyl before. Maybe there's some extra stuff and bonus stuff. Maybe it's like a box set where you compile stuff. That's the type of re-release that I'm talking about. Second of all, I am only talking about records that I bought on vinyl last year. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I missed out on. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I haven't bought yet that I'm going to buy. And I'm sure this list will look very different in 10 years and going back like, oh, what was my favorite records of 2022? But these are the records I'm talking about right now. These are the records that I have that I really enjoyed. And also, as always, highly subjective to my taste and my ideas. There we have it. I'm going to give you a couple of short examples of the type of re-releases I'm talking about by showing some of the re-releases that I did in 2022. First of all, we did Refused Pump the Brakes EP. This one was released on a little bit of a CD thing in 1993, and this is the first time it's ever released on vinyl. 4-song, 12-inch, I think we did a very limited run of this one. Yeah, 1,000 copies. Pump the Brakes, classic Refused track. And then we also re-released Songs to Fan the Flames of Discontent 25 years anniversary ultimate edition. And then you might ask, but wait, the 25-year anniversary was actually 2021, and you are correct, my good sir, but due to vinyl pressing's insane time slots, it didn't really come out until 2022, and it's pretty awesome. It has a ton of really cool photos, some great liner notes by me and David, and it has a full extra vinyl of demos with some unreleased stuff. And there's a couple of tracks where Dave Exit, our old friend, is singing tracking vocals for me to follow. So yeah, check it out. That's the kind of reissues and re-releases I am going to talk about. So let's do it. Number 10. We have the Cro-Mags, Hard Times in an Age of Quarrel. This is a live record that was released on CD in 1994 and finally got the vinyl treatment. It is actually 2 records, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Cro-Mags live recorded 92-93. Cro-Mags is a fascinating band, and one of these days I might do a full episode on just talking about the Cro-Mags. But for today, I'm going to show you these records and tell you that if you are a fan of the Cro-Mags, you need to check it out. I mean, it's not the classic lineup, but it is John Joseph, and it's Harley, and it's Doug Holland, and it's some other guy called Gabby. I think it's the same lineup that recorded the records Alpha Omega and Near Death Experience in 92 and 93. The only negative about it is that there's no, it doesn't say where it's recorded and when it's recorded. It just says recorded live 92, 93. That being said, it sounds great, they play great, and the song selection is pretty kick-ass. And if you get both versions, you'll hear a couple of the songs a couple of times, but it's definitely worth the bucks. So there you have it. Number 10, Cro-Mags, Hard Times in an Age of Quarrel. Number 9, we have Swedish indie rockers Yvonne. Their first album from 1995. Never been released on vinyl before. They're a really cool indie rock band that we in Refuse befriended them in the mid-90s. Played some festivals together, it was super cool. And then actually Noise Conspiracy went on tour with them in the early 2000s, right before they broke up. This is really cool. They're like dark indie pop from Sweden. Check it out. I wish that their last record, Hit That City, would also get the vinyl re-release. And if you want to check out some Yvonne, actually you should check out the song Modern Love from their second record, which I think is, that song is a bit of a Swedish indie rock classic from the 90s. So Yvonne's debut album on vinyl for the first time. Great stuff. Number 8, we have PJ Harvey. It's too heavy. B-sides, demos, and rarities. The last couple of years, PJ's been releasing demo records of all of her records, and she's been doing some really nice vinyl reissues, and I think this is the peak of all that. 6 LPs of demos. I love PJ Harvey, and I think if you love PJ Harvey, you might want to have this in your collection. If you're a newcomer to her, maybe not. The only downside of this, I would say that it's not complete. There's still a bunch of B-sides that's not on here. There's no lyrics, there's no liner notes. I wish they could have done a little bit more with this one, but all in all, and it's a fantastic record, but if they would have added some more value to it, it might have ended up on a higher ranking than number 8. But still, PJ Harvey, she's fantastic, and I have all of her records, and now I also have this one. Coming in at number 7, we have David Bowie's Toy. It's been a weird couple years if you're into Bowie since he died, because his estate and the record labels have really been trying to cash in on Bowie. There's been tons of re-releases and reissues and box sets and so on and so forth, but 2022 saw a couple of really good re-releases happening, and it also saw the Moon Age Daydream movie happen, which I thought was phenomenal. They did a bunch of re-releases of his records that from like the difficult years, and it also made me fill in the 3 gaps that I had on Bowie's vinyl collection, on my vinyl collection of David Bowie. I will say I don't own Bowie's record collection, even though that would be interesting. I managed to get Booty of Suburbia, Black Tie, White Noise, and The Hours, and they're all pretty good, but they're insanely expensive in other pressings, so I'm quite glad that they did reissues of those. And then this one came out, Joy's record, that songs written between 1964 and 1971, and it's recorded in 2000, and it was supposed to be released in 2001, but EMI Virgin had some problems with the financing, and they weren't sure that this would be, that would be a hit record. So it never got released, and Bowie actually left the label because of that. And it's not until like 2021 it got included in a box set, and then last year it got released on vinyl. It's a cool record. I've heard most of these tracks, the old recordings, and even though I'm a bit more partial for the older kind of sound with songs like London Boys, where the whole mod 60s garage thing is kind of cool, it's still a great record, and it is interesting to hear the songs in different versions, basically, and it stands up pretty well as a Bowie record. Not one of his greatest, but it's still a Bowie record of new material. So number 7, Bowie, Toy. Coming in at number 6, we have Dutch hardcore band Dead Stool Pigeon. These guys were one of my favorite bands of the 90s, and they released 3 records on CD only, and for years I've been saying like someone needs to re-release the Dead Stool Pigeon CDs on vinyl, and someone finally did. When I got into punk and hardcore, some of my favorite bands were European hardcore bands such as Man Lifting Banner or Seeing Red, and Dead Stool Pigeon is a bunch of the people from Man Lifting Banner when they broke up. Super political, super good 90s hardcore, and if you love hardcore, you need this. And if you're a bit hesitant about checking it out, just listen to the song Hunt Down, and then you will be sold. So number 6, Dead Stool Pigeon. Coming in at number 5, we have this massive Celtic Frost box set, Dance Macabre. Celtic Frost was a Swiss band from Zurich. Then they started in the early 80s, and they're just phenomenal. They're one of my favorite metal bands of all time, and this box set collects their first 3 albums and their first 3 EPs, plus it has some early demos, it has posters, pins, patches. It has a little nice booklet with really cool photos and interview with the singer. Celtic Frost, one of those weird bands to start out kind of Venom-esque, you know, that type of metal, and then they just became experimental and they did their own thing. And I love Celtic Frost. They're fantastic. In the 90s, Martin, the bass player from Celtic Frost that sadly passed away a couple years back, he had a club in Zurich, and we played there with Refused. And when we found out there was a bass player from Celtic Frost that had the club, we freaked the fuck out. We were so amped and so excited about the fact that we're playing at the Celtic Frost guys club. So, I mean, this is one of those cases where I have all of these records. I don't have these two. It's like a 7-inch and a 12-inch that I don't have. And I didn't have the poster and the stuff. But this is just kind of the stuff that suckers like me likes to buy. So 5th place, Celtic Frost, Dance Macabre. Fucking amazing stuff. Coming in at number 4, we have the Manic Street Preachers' 6th album, Know Your Enemy, from 2001. When they first recorded this record, it was supposed to be a double album, but the label said it was too expensive or it didn't work out, so it got released as a single album. And even though it's kind of great, it's a bit messy. So last year they actually re-released it as intended, as a double album, and it has 2 very separate ideas. The first record is called Door to the River. The other one's called Solidarity. Door to the River is a bit more mellow and a bit more personal, while Solidarity is a bit more wild and political. They remixed and remastered everything, and then they added 6 extra songs, and it makes complete sense, and it flows in a way that the original record didn't do. And I think if this would have been the proper release back in 2001, this album would have been as big as their previous records. In 2001 or maybe 2002, the International Noise Conspiracy was supposed to tour, opening up for the Manics at a tour in Europe. And we were super pumped. We were like, we can't believe it. We're going to tour with the Manic Street Preachers. It's too good to be true. And of course it was. They canceled the tour 2 weeks before. I don't know why. But if you are watching this, Nikki or James, or, you know, just bring Invasion on tour or something. I think that'd be a good fit. But yeah, this is a record that I've been listening to probably the most this fall. It's been on my top rotation, I would say. So Manic Street Preachers, Know Your Enemy, 4th place. Okay, we're coming into top 3. My third favorite reissue, re-release of 2022 is Danzig, Satan's Child, 666. All right, so to be fair and honest, this actually had a vinyl release before. It was a really wonky picture disc. Doesn't really sound that good and doesn't really look that great, but I actually did have this one. But yeah, this one came out last year and I think it's great. It's interesting how time changes your perception of things. I love Danzig. I'm one of those dudes that when I'm in a room with other people, the conversation always goes into Danzig for reasons, you know, why not? And I'm also very much a defender of Danzig in all things Danzig. And you know, we all have the conversation. The first 4 Danzig records are fantastic, and then he kind of lost the plot a little bit. Which to a certain extent is true, because his popularity definitely faded when he went industrial. That being said, though, the 5th and the 6th Danzig record are pretty fucking great. And the industrial madness that he's got going on is actually really cool. The songwriting maybe not as fantastic as on some of the early albums, but still on this record you have a song like 13, which, I mean, that's probably, I mean, that's like a top 10 Danzig song. The album is pretty awesome. It sounds really cool. It's a really nice vinyl reissue thing, and I'm pretty stoked about it. It is interesting, a lot of these bands that I'm talking about today, like both the Danzig and Bowie and Manic Street, Pigeon and Chronics, they're definitely bands that I want to do episode when I talk about these bands, just focusing on these bands. Danzig for sure is too much stuff to talk about when it comes to Danzig. Number 3, Danzig, Satan's Child, 666. Great stuff. All right, the number 2 spot, my favorite reissues of the year is Voivod's box set Forgotten in Space. Voivod is a progressive science fiction metal band out of Quebec in Canada, and they are one of my favorite metal bands. I want to do one of these shows where I talk about my favorite metal bands, but I already outed 2 of them. But this is a box set that contains not their first album, because it was in a different label, but their second record, and then Killing Technology, Dimension Hetrus. And you can listen to Voivod going from kind of blatant Venom ripoff to super proggy, weird avant-garde metal on Dimension Hetrus. And I love this period of Voivod. I mean, I love all Voivod stuff, but this period is really great. It's a really nice booklet. It has a live recording from '86 and some other cool stuff in it. So if you are like me and you like your metal to be weird and progressive, then check out this really nice box set, or you know, just buy their records. Voivod is fantastic, and they scored the number 2 spot of my favorite reissues of the year. All right, so that brings us to my favorite re-release, reissue box set of the year. And if you know me, you might guess what it is. And yes, it is Dischord box set, first 6 records. Dischord, my favorite record label. I've talked about that already. And here's the first 6, 7 inches that never got reissued or re-released before. To own these, you have to pay a small fortune. I mean, if you didn't buy them back in the days, but if you want them now, you have to pay a small fortune. So Dischord was kind enough to gather the first 6, 7 inches in a little box set, plus a bonus 7-inch with the Slinkies, which was the first band that Jeff Nelson and Ian Mackay had before Teen Idols and Manic Street. And so the singles that you have is, of course, the Teen Idols single. You have the first, well, you have the 2 Minor Threat 7 inches, and then you have SOA, which is Henry Rollins' first band, and then you have Youth Brigade, not the California Youth Brigade, but the DC Youth Brigade, and then you have the first Government issue 7-inch. This is music history, a document of a time and place that's just amazing. I grew up listening to all these bands and records, and obsessively collecting Discord records. And then Brian Baker, who plays in Minor Threat, who's on 2 of these 7 inches, came up to me one day and he said that I have a band with Michael Hampton that plays in SOA that's on this record, and he said, do you want to sing in my new band? And I said yes. I didn't ask what type of music it was. I didn't ask about anything. I said, yeah, I want to sing in your band. And that's how I ended up in Fake Names. So a lot of the Fake Names people on this record, which is pretty amazing. I grew up listening to this, and then this came out. It is a fantastic piece of history. And if you like music, if you like hardcore, and if you don't want to pay the big bucks to get a hold of the original pressings, I have the original pressings. I pay the big bucks. Then you can buy this one. It got a little bit pricey, but it's definitely worth it. All right, so there you have it. My favorite reissues of 2022. What's yours? What did I miss, and what do I need to check out? Comment in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and thanks for checking out. Next week I'm going to talk about new records that was released in 2022, and I will not be talking about old music, but I will talk about new music. So check it out, and you'll see what my favorite new records of 2022 was. Thanks for looking, and until next time, stay wild, my friends. Thank you.